So good afternoon, and thank you for having me here today. So my talk for you is called Publish or Perish, how university libraries can help faculty to improve research impact. So although coined in 1932, the phrase publish or perish continues to persist in our 21st century academic institutions. And this pressure to publish in order to meet promotion and funding requirements or else endure career suicide has its ups and downs, but mostly it's outdated. When researchers focus more on increasing their number of publications for the sake of expanding their CV, they tend to lose sight of maintaining clarity and quality in their submissions. So to combat this, universities have recently begun to examine more than just the classic publication count by examining research impact of publications. So research impact is defined as the demonstrable contribution that excellent research makes to society and the economy. So in short, research impact metrics try to provide measures of quality of outputs. So we're starting to see these measures on various databases such as Google Scholar. We're seeing it on Thomson Reuters Web of Science, Elsevier's Scopus, and some institutions are even subscribing to services such as PlumX and Altmetrics to help keep track of these different metrics. However, over the past 8 months, I've been working for UBC Okanagan, and I've been trying to I was creating and trying to perfect a system for tracking their faculty publications using the PlumX platform. And so while doing this, I became very aware of, I became aware and skeptical of the existing attempts at quantifying the faculty research. And I became really aware of the implications that this has not only on people's career opportunities, but also on what we as academics and information professionals, and even just as a society in general, believe to be true. So just to make sure that we're all on the same page, I'd like to take a couple of minutes just to briefly define some of the different metrics that are currently available and being used to measure research impact. So we have the popular one, citation analysis, which is essentially just the number of times that a publication is cited. The H index is one that attempts to measure productivity and citation impact, and it illustrates how many of a researcher's publications have at least X number of citations. So it's presumed that a higher H index demonstrates a larger number of important papers. So other metrics include usage metrics, which measure utilization as well as performance. And these are indicated by, for example, how many times an article abstract or a full article has been viewed, the number of clicks of a link from the publication, the number of collaborators, or the number of times that a publication has been downloaded. And a couple others include capture metrics, which show future interest in the publication by such actions as bookmarking an article, marking it as a favorite, exporting or saving it. And then mention metrics are measures of engagement with the output, and these are shown by the number of comments or reviews on it, or the number of links to the publication. And then finally, we even have social media metrics, which is basically tracking how the publication is being talked about and used on social media websites, such as Twitter or Facebook. And this is indicated by the number of likes on the publication, the number of times it was shared or commented on, or even the number of times that it was tweeted or retweeted, tweets or retweets that mention the publication. So even just as I go through these, I'm sure you kind of have some ideas of how these may be problematic in painting a full picture of the quality of research. And honestly, there's so many, but I'd like to bring three main ones to your attention today, and then I'm going to consider kind of what could be done. So the issues that I'm bringing to you today have to do with timing, access, and measuring online behavior. So the first issue of timing comes into play in two prominent ways. There's the age of the researcher and the age of the publication. So with regards to the age of a researcher, obviously a young or new researcher will have less publications than an older one or one who has been in the field for longer. Obviously, someone who's older has had more time to publish and conduct research. And with regards to the age of the publication, metrics take time to accumulate. A publication that is not going to attain high metrics overnight. So obviously a new publication is going to have lower metrics than an older one, which affects its apparent quality. So second, there's the issue of access, which is influenced by open access and publication identifiers. So items that are open access are accessible obviously by a larger population, and they're therefore they're more likely to have higher metrics. However, as you know, not all journals allow publications to be available openly, or sometimes they'll put an embargo on them, and that obviously affects the publication's research impact metrics. So additionally, most publications are assigned an ISBN, a DOI, or a PubMed ID, some sort of standard identifier, in order to make sure that no matter where that item is accessed, it maintains the metrics access-wide. And so even patents are assigned patent publication IDs. So no matter, these standard identifiers make it so that metrics are captured for the output, no matter where it is accessed from. However, this is problematic because not all research outputs are assigned a standard identifier. For example, not all conference proceedings are archived, and so a lot of them are overlooked. And sometimes one research output may have multiple identifiers that are not linked. So for example, archive IDs are not currently linked to DOIs or any sort of other standard identifier. And so if someone were to, say, use or share an article accessed on the archive database, their usage and mentions metrics would not show up on any other database. So this would ultimately impact the apparent quality of that article as well. And third and final issue is that research impact metrics track only online information behavior. So this raises problems for print materials and for non-digital interactions with and use of publications. So although libraries may keep track of use of print materials by counting the number of times that an item is checked out or requested, this number only reflects the usage metrics, and it fails to capture all other metrics associated with that information behavior. And also, it brings up an issue of how do we account for chapters within a book or individual articles within a bound journal. So then there's also the matter of capturing online digital behavior largely overlooks any sort of natural information behavior that happens, for example, if you're talking face-to-face with someone about an article or you print an article for future use. So now the good stuff. How can we address these issues in order to help faculty improve their research impact? So I'm going to propose a threefold solution, but it requires excessive refining and universal cooperation. So first and foremost, ORC-IDs. I know libraries and universities, many are already pushing, but I recommend to keep pushing and push harder. So for those of you that don't know, ORC-ID is an international, interdisciplinary, and not-for-profit organization that creates unique identifiers for authors in order to remove name ambiguity on publications. Sorry. So for example, let's say Jane Smith published an article, and so her ORC-ID will differentiate her publication from the million other Jane Smiths out there. And that way, only the right research impact metrics are being collected for the right Jane Smith. So this helps to make sure that publications, it keeps track of the metrics, and it also maintains publications that don't have standard identifiers. So my personal favorite is the focus on open access on institutional repositories. So first of all, I'm not sure if every platform does this, but I know that DSpace's Circle, at least, every submission is assigned a DOI if it doesn't already have one. So that helps to ensure that future access to or use of the publication is recognized universally. And uploading to the institutional repository also helps to maintain equal access for all. And that way, metrics will reflect their apparent quality more so than whether or not they're accessible. And finally, I strongly recommend subscribing to a metrics platform of some sort, such as Altmetric or PlumX. It's kind of interesting because just earlier today, I got an email from EBSCO, who originally had owned PlumX, and now it is sold to Elsevier, so that's going to be changing some things and maybe changes my talk's validity a little bit, but anyways, although like other databases, these platforms still have some minor tweaks that they require, they do guarantee the most accurate and the most adequate picture of publication behavior. They also provide transparency for the researchers with regards to how their research is being used by others and how their research is seen by hiring committees and funding agencies. So now the reason that I focus on these three methods is that they're interdependent. PlumX and Altmetric are generally filled up manually. However, with an institutional repository integration and the use of ORC-IDs, these platforms can be regulated automatically. This makes it easier for hiring committees and funding agencies to keep track of faculty publications and for faculty to keep track of how their research is doing. After all, what is the point of publishing if your work is not being used? Faculty are understandably quite critical of existing measures and applications, and these solutions by no means resolve all of our problems. But they're a starting point, and just knowing how your research is being used works to improve research impact, as it demonstrates who is using it, for what purposes, and where to focus your improvement for future research. Thank you.